to the Don't Quit Your Day Job podcast with Mike, Keith, and Adam.
Hey, we're back!
And you might be wondering, who is this lovely person to my right? Well, this is our friend Dan, and he is our expert at everything Miyagi-verse. He's a super fan, and we invited him to be one of our guests. Welcome to the show, Dan.
How you doing?
There you go.
So is that why I look like Terry Silver's illegitimate son over here? What are we talking about?
Okay, now what's the subject? You said
The
Miyagi
topic for today, if you haven't already guessed, by the t-shirts and some of the comments I just made, that we're going to be talking about the Miyagi universe, Cobra Kai and Karate Kid. So let's just kick it off, and I'm going to address some questions for Dan over here. So, Dan, first question. When did you first become a fan of the Karate Kid?
Back when I remember the first time seeing the movie. I think it was in the Marlboro movie theater.
Oh, wow.
And it was just like, wow, blew my mind. Everybody at the time joined karate after that, and I just remember seeing it. I was in junior high school. I seen it with my friend Walter, and we were just like, wow. It was just jaw-dropping, eye-opening. Certain things I related with back then, with the main character being Daniel, my name being Dan, and learning to go the right way. I started my karate training not that far after that, so it was a good inspiring movie. Kept me on the straight and narrow.
Being somebody that actually took martial arts, took karate, the name Miyagi, can you explain to us, pretty much why they use the name Miyagi?
Well, the writer, Richard Kamen, was a martial artist, and he did Goju karate, and he dropped in a lot of the original karatekas, pioneers in the movie. So he used dropped a lot of them in there. You'll see through the movies, Chojun Miyagi and things like that, and they're founders of the Goju system. So,
correct. Because I studied Okinawan Goju-ryu, and we had before beginning of class you would bow, and there was a picture of the original Miyagi who formed and founded Okinawan Goju-ryu. And so, like Danny mentioned, there was a real Miyagi.
Was there?
Yes, there was.
Absolutely. So, Dan, we all know, Cobra Kai came back, and people were surprised. Wow, how could they bring this back? Karate Kid was just so long ago. But the great thing about it is they focused on Johnny Lawrence as opposed to Daniel LaRusso, because we never really heard his side of the story. And at first it started off on YouTube Red, and it got so popular, it got renewed, but then YouTube decided not to do any more original programming. So we were all lucky to actually have it go on to Netflix, because then it becomes a wider audience. Now,
much wider.
When you started to watch it, what did you like about the new series?
I'll tell you, I saw the first 2 episodes, since I love the Karate Kid whole series, and some movies better than others, but when they were doing a screening and they were showing the first 2 episodes, I saw it on 14th Street in the city, and I was just hooked by Cobra Kai, just because it's funny, because the first 2 episodes back in the 80s, I related a lot to Daniel and everything he was going through and stuff like that. But as an adult, I related a little more to Johnny, with dead-end jobs and getting, stuck in the 80s and stuff like that, because I love 80s music and So there was a lot of things I actually related more to him, and they had the first two. They showed the Karate Kid, and they showed they were promoting Cobra Kai, so they showed the first two episodes before it was coming out on YouTube Red. And I saw it at 14th Street, and I was so mad because they were also showing it on 34th Street, and Ralph Macchio and Zapka were there at 34th Street.
Man.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh, I wish they would have announced that because I would have went to 34th
Yeah,
Street.
nothing beats going to a screening.
But who did you meet at the one you went
Premiere.
to?
At that one, no, there was nobody there.
Or didn't you meet, what's his name, who was Freddie?
Oh, that was at a Comic Con, but
Okay.
that I'll tell you about in a little while. But yeah, Freddie was.
Which one was Freddie? I'm sorry.
Freddie was Daniel's friend that invites him to the beach party.
And
And
you
stuff
never
like
saw
that.
him again. What happened to Freddie?
He actually was.
All I know is about was getting his butt kicked. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
so-
And the
yeah,
actor
nice
alone,
guy.
I think you only saw him another time was
Nice
in
friend.
Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah.
He's the one that brings the food to the cops, and
Yeah.
while when Eddie Murphy puts the bananas in
Coffee
the
and
tailpipe.
donuts.
Yeah.
So,
Late supper.
so
Yeah, I don't know.
I
I've seen the movie a lot of times.
had a picture. I met. That was at
I didn't know that.
that was when they did a this is way before, this is after Karate Kid. There was a Comic-Con screening of at the 92nd Street Y, and they had a question and answer with William Zapka, Martin Cove, and Ralph Macchio at the 92nd Street Y, and they were promoting the New York Comic Con. Again, this is way before Cobra Kai was even a thought. And
Was it were they celebrating an anniversary or anything?
I think it was an anniversary, you know, and again they were promoting. They were at Comic Con, you know, and all that stuff. So they were there, and they that's when I saw them. I actually saw them afterwards, and that's when I actually asked all three of them questions. I asked them if they did karate afterwards, after the movies and stuff like that, and how it affected you. And they said Martin Cove said he didn't do any karate training after the movie, but his daughter did, and she liked the kata aspect. Johnny William Zapka said he trained. I think he got up to 3rd degree black belt, and Pat E. Johnson, who was the referee in the movie,
The guy in
was
the
his
red
teacher.
shirt, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
He's a true martial artist.
Yeah, he's a true martial artist, and he was Johnny's teacher for many years.
And they brought him back for the series, right?
No, not Patty Johnson. No.
Oh, no.
No, he's not there. But he did that, and Ralph Macchio said he didn't study karate afterwards. But that was my question. I talked to them briefly, and they were really nice. Martin Cove and Zapka were really nice with signing autographs and stuff like that.
I got a
after
question for you,
Yeah.
and you guys can answer this too. But
I know where this is going.
you know where this is going.
I have no idea where this is going.
Now, isn't there one time these guys were at a convention and you spoke to somebody on the phone? Can you tell that story?
Well, I think that Danny should, right behind Danny's head over here is a box set of the Karate Kid trilogy. Actually, no, not trilogy, all the Karate Kids, including the one with Hilary Swank, which nobody remembers, the next Karate Kid. Anyway, Adam and I went to a Chiller Theater.
Chiller Theater
out in
2007.
Yeah, it was like out in Parsippany, New Jersey. It was at a big hotel, and it was a whole huge lineup of people from various movies and stuff. And you know, you have to pay for the autographs. I mean, they make their money. But Martin Cove was there, so I told Danny Martin Cove was going to be there. Danny unfortunately couldn't make it. He had a prior engagement and stuff. So he says, Keith, I'll give you my Karate Kid box set. If he's there, see if he can sign it. I said, yeah, we'll do our best. And then also Eric Roberts, who has the whitest teeth in America, folks.
Eric Roberts.
And Danny gave me his best of the best box set.
Next to him was Frank Stallone.
We had him sign that. Well, Frank Stallone, that's another story for another time. But anyway, Martin Cole was there, and he's such a bad guy on screen, but he's probably one of the nicest guys.
Very nice guy.
That you'll ever want to meet.
And he was there with his son.
And he was there with his son, yeah, right. And his son
Who's on the show now, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we went over to him and said, Mr. Cove, our friend couldn't make it and stuff. He's a huge fan, blah, blah, blah. Could you sign this for? He says, well, where is he? I says, I think he's home. He's got to watch his kids. Or I said, well, let's give him a call. So I called Danny up and I said, Danny, you got a minute? So yeah, what's up? I said, so somebody here wants to talk to you. And the rest was history. Martin Cole was on the phone with you for at least...
So that was the first time you spoke to him,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, and you were on the phone with him.
And when you heard his voice, what was it like?
Oh, it was, I couldn't believe it.
And you were on the phone with him a while.
Yeah, we talked for a few minutes. I asked him a few questions.
Very personable.
I actually gave Keith a letter to give to him, and he read it, and he knew I was a big fan. And again, this is before Comic Cons were huge. This is now they're really huge, but this was back in the day, and again, nicest guy. Plays the fact that he played such a good bad guy made Ralph Macchio and all of them look good, because he was just so mean, and he played it so well. But the nicest guy. I hear nothing but good stories about him when other people that meet him and stuff like that. Nicest guy.
Yeah, he was cool, and then you were talking with his son for a while about stuff, and then we were asking him stuff about the movie and Pat Morita and his relationship with Pat Morita through the years, and so we were getting a lot of tidbits.
Yeah, he gave us.
Speaking of
fun
Pat
facts
Morita,
about Pat Morita.
Speaking of Pat Morita, and Dan and I discussed this before the show. When they were trying to cast Karate Kid, when he auditioned and everything, and he was going to go out for it, they were like, "Wait a minute, is that the guy from
Happy Days?
Happy Days? Is that Arnold
from Happy Days?"
But they were like really surprised.
Yeah.
This guy was known as a comedian, right, in his younger days, and then he was on Happy Days. But I'll tell you, the movie wouldn't have been the same without him, and they made the right choice.
Yeah.
He was amazing in the movie, and nobody thought he could do it at first because he was Arnold from Happy Days,
And he ended up getting an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. Didn't win, but he was in a tight race. But to be just nominated for that performance, and I mean, Mr. Miyagi is an iconic character, period. If you want to equate it to, which is kind of ironic, because also when Danny mentioned that he saw it as when it came out in the theaters, and the whole thing about kids getting enlisted into and going into karate classes and wanting to learn karate, the same director of the Karate Kid also who directed Rocky was John Avildsen. So if you look at Rocky and you look at the Karate Kid, they're very similar but different, but they have similar themes. That there is a guy that believes in Daniel, which is Mr. Miyagi. There was a guy that believed in Rocky, which was Mickey, and Mickey is is an iconic character. So there's a lot of similarities. Pat Morita was just it was the perfect choice. You can't look back now. There's no one else that could have played that role.
Let me ask you a question, Dan. You might know this because you're such a big fan. The person that created the crane kick. Do you remember who that was? Can you explain that to us?
Yeah, that was that was Vidal. He was the fighter with the kicks at the end. At the end of the movie, he fights Johnny. He loses to Johnny. He's the Filipino-looking character, and he was the one that actually did the kicks on the stump on the beach, and he invented the. I hope they put him in like the last season of Cobra Kai.
He had a very good finishing to him. Remember when he did that sweep with his leg?
He's a real deal martial artist, and actually
That's where sweep the leg came from?
No,
not quite sweep the leg, but he was definitely you could see he was a seasoned martial artist, and definitely probably the best fighter there. And I think they made comments in Cobra Kai that he beat Johnny previously in the season. They make a comment to it that Vidal was undefeated, and then Johnny came and then won after that and stuff like that. But you have to check that again on the.
Danny, how many times did you see Karate that summer?
The Karate Kid. Every time it's on cable.
No. When
No, in the theater.
In the theater.
In the
that's
theater,
on.
I don't know. I remember the first time I seen it. I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember seeing it the first time, but you know, back in the day when you actually had to pay for movies, yeah, you don't see it. But if it's on cable and stuff like that, you know, if I'm
always
changing
on.
channels,
Movies were cheaper though. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
if you
yeah.
really loved, you could have gone to a
but the
matinee
Karate Kid is
or something like that.
The Karate Kid is one of
A few
those.
matinees only.
The Karate Kid is one of those movies where no matter what you're doing, you'll stop what you're doing and you'll watch it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's just that type of film, and you feel good about
It's
it.
a story about the underdog. It's
Yeah,
a story
everyone loves an
about
underdog, right?
right. Someone who overcomes the odds. Daniel LaRusso definitely was that type of character, especially, and it kind of gets flipped with Cobra Kai. You know, because you see a different side of Johnny Lawrence, and you say to yourself, you know, I don't know about Daniel LaRusso anymore. He kind of he's not the same guy as when I was growing up. You know,
he's a little douchey.
He's become a little bit of a douche, and
Yeah, and
And the thing is, like-
he's like a slick businessman, kind of.
And what you said, what you like,
too slick.
what you said, Dan, was about relating to Johnny. I think we all, when we watched it, were like, wow, Johnny's freaking cool, man.
Yeah,
I
we
want to
never-
hang with him.
We never heard his side of the story.
And I'm like, you know what? He's not a bad guy. He's not a bad guy. He really it was just, you know, he grew up with a stepfather that was
Played by Ed Asner.
late Ed Asner.
Yeah, the late Asner.
who was
Which was
a
very
real schmuck,
interesting to
if
see.
you really want to use the term. And he
Very
didn't
good
treat him
very
well.
interesting casting.
And I guess, you know, you had a character of Kreese that believed in this kid.
He brainwashed him
and
too.
brainwashed,
Yeah.
So to see these people's backstory and stuff.
But I want to get into something. I'm gonna go talk more about the Cobra Kai universe here. I just really love it because I'm very nostalgic as a person. I really love the nostalgia from the movie references to the music, and it's like the music is like that bond that gets Johnny and Daniel like talking together. That scene in the car, and the music comes on, and they both started to sing, and then they're like forgetting about their problems for a minute, and they just bonded over this.
And how it grows on. What's the name of the character? Who he basically mentors in Cobra Kai.
Miguel.
Miguel, yeah.
It grows on Miguel. Miguel becomes like a heavy metal fan, and you know he begins to relate to the music more, and you know. It's kind of like a School of Rock thing, like with Jack Black, how he taught these younger kids like how much better music was back then.
I mean, for guys our
what are you
age-
talking to me? These bands, I don't know these
No,
bands.
when we-
you know,
Weights
it's
and stuff like that.
nostalgic.
I know
Both
when
guys
I
are
know
like,
when
that's awesome.
when the first, it was one of the Cobra Kai is one of those shows, especially the first season. When you watched it, you couldn't help but talking with people about it. It was definitely water cooler material, and it was so like you were like so psyched up. You're like, oh my god! And it was probably one of the first shows I binge watched, like because it was like you couldn't turn away from it. I mean, the episodes weren't long, but still, it was just so
Riveting.
good, riveting, and like I said, it was the nostalgic. It's like our generation, and just everything, and you're like, wow. And you think when you first heard the news, and I know when I was, you know, when Danny and I was with Danny when we heard the news. At first, you're like, wow, can this really be good? 30 years later, and could this really take off? And it sounded corny.
Because
Like,
whenever they do a reboot, when they do most reboots, and when they do, especially with how many hit television shows were there for movies that you can name? How many? They've
Not too
tried
many.
so many.
what hit
Now,
television?
granted,
Like
they
my
tried
Big
it.
Fat Greek Wedding, it failed as a TV show.
Right,
Great
right,
movie.
right. The
failed
closest
as
I can
TV.
think of
MASH?
is maybe. Well,
MASH was the
MASH was
exception to the rule.
MASH was a successful movie and a TV series.
I think before Cobra Kai or whatever, maybe it was. You guys probably wouldn't, you know, even if you know this series, may not be able to relate to it, because I don't know if you're horror fans. Hannibal, the Hannibal, the new with Mads Mikkelsen. That actually lived up to the Silence of the Lambs mythology. If you watched it before Cobra Kai, and a lot of people would tell you that. But yeah, Cobra Kai was just the right formula at the right time.
Well,
It was the right time to bring it back, like Top Gun Maverick.
Like you were saying, this how many shows? This was a nostalgic spin-off. It wasn't a reboot. So they didn't reboot the whole Karate Kid series.
Right.
They did a spin-off, Cobra Kai, off of the movie. They incorporated the whole Miyagi-verse into like the storyline. So it was like Creed was a spin-off of Rocky, but it's all part of that, you know, Balboa universe. So you had the first season, everybody was geared more towards the people that watched it in the 80s, and they wanted to know, what's Ralph Macchio doing with himself, what's Johnny doing with himself, hey, is Ali gonna come back? That was the big thing with season 1, season 2, you know.
Who else is going to come back?
Yeah,
Right?
like
Yeah,
what
yeah.
are they doing with themselves 35 years later?
Right.
So that was the appeal to it. Not so much with the little kids, the newer generation and stuff like that, but I know all the people at my age were curious to see what do they amount to, what, you know, and that's why you related more towards Johnny this year, because you want to know what did they amount to. Seeing you know, Johnny, you know, open the Cobra Kai dojo again, and seeing, you know, that Ralph Macchio, he became like a car dealer and stuff like that. And again, I like the fact that in the first season he was kind of douchey to Johnny, and it was kind of like a role reversal, and you're like, hey, what I really wanted to see is, and I haven't found somebody to do it yet, but some of the new younger generations, I wanted to see somebody that watched Cobra Kai without seeing the original Karate Kids first, and seeing how they would like the movies back then.
Right.
Like if they just saw Cobra Kai first, didn't see the original movies, and then, you know,
Look at their perspective of it.
yeah, exactly. See the perspective, and what was really great too with Cobra Kai first season, second season, they were able to have flashbacks from the movie, which was really cool. You don't see that a lot, and they had different stuff. They didn't, like when they showed the kick to the face. You had all different angles and things like that you didn't see in the original movie. That when Johnny was reliving that, you know, kick to the face and stuff like that, you saw different angles, and
It was like deleted scenes.
yeah,
or,
yeah.
The
It was
lost
like,
scenes.
yeah,
And
yeah.
remember when it first did, we were talking about it then, like how the acknowledgement of Pat Morita,
Yeah.
like they even though, you know, Pat Morita's no longer with us, how they were able to incorporate the memory of his character and revolve it around that, and how Daniel is trying to live upon and carry on Mr. Miyagi's legacy.
Yeah, yeah. They showed the grave and stuff
Yeah,
like
the
that.
grave
That
and all
was,
that. Yeah.
you know, you saw his mother in the first season, I think it was, and you know, they talked about how good Miyagi was to them growing up and stuff like that. So, you know, they handled the first couple seasons. They handled it well, and you know, that was the big appeal. The first 2 seasons that did good on YouTube, and it was an instant success. And then when it finally went to Netflix, and you know, blew up on Netflix, and people were like, "Wow, this is a great show." And I'm like, "Yeah, I watched it when it was on YouTube Red because, you know, where you been? I saw this, you know, a year or 2 ago."
Was it really a hit on YouTube Red, or did
Yeah, no, it
Yeah,
was.
it
It was.
wasn't-
No, it was
or
because
until it was shown.
Word got out.
Word got out when season 1 aired. YouTube renewed season 2 like that. There was no questions asked, because the amount of viewings was remarkable. I mean, we all did free monthly memberships just to knock out. That's all. What else would I was
Well,
gonna
I didn't
get
see it
YouTube?
on Netflix.
And just
Honestly,
just
be
to
honest.
get it, just to watch it. Danny's like, yeah, just subscribe for the free month.
Yeah, my daughter had it. She had like a Google. It was like Google, for an extra $, you get like YouTube Red or something like that. And I was able to watch it on the big screen.
I want to just bring something up
Yes.
real quick. We cannot not talk about the showrunners of the show, who are actually huge fans of the Karate Kid universe. And these guys really put their hearts and souls into the script writing and into the production of the show. And they knew they wanted to bring all the nostalgia back, but they also wanted to introduce that new generation of kids that are going to be taught karate and the values and what's good and what's bad and why you Cobra Kai. And And even during there, Johnny changes so much that he's like, you know what? These rules that applied in the past, these don't apply anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe I was taught incorrectly. Maybe it was wrong. Maybe Daniel had the right idea. He might not agree with everything that Daniel said, but when they came together, both of their ideas melded together, worked great. Because you needed both of those sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and the showrunners and the writers of the show, they really looked at everything from every angle. And, you know, it's like the group of people together is better than the one itself.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And the
Teamwork.
The other, absolutely. The thing about Karate Kid too, I mean Cobra Kai, that I think it was probably the first series I literally binge watched. And now the term binge watching.
Ever?
I think. Well, I mean, no. Eventually, I did Eventually, I did like The Office, and shows like that during the pandemic and all. But I'm talking.
I know you had a Game of Thrones fan.
I'm saying no, but Cobra Kai was, and what Cobra Kai did so well, and it's the writing. It's the writing. How season 1 left off, where the appearance of Kreese. And I'm sorry for spoiling, but if you haven't watched it at this point, then I'm sorry. But you were like, oh my God. And you're like, oh my God, what's it going to lead to now for season 2? And then I think season 2 ended where the cell phone with Ali's number, with Ali's text or whatever.
The Facebook.
The Facebook the Facebook friend request was approved.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shoot. No, that's next. And then the following seasons with Terry Silver. Like, oh shoot, is he on the phone with Terry Silver? And then of course Terry Silver, which we'll get to.
I'll tell you,
it's just set up so well, Dan. I mean, and we would talk, and I know, like Danny, as soon as it hit like 12 o'clock midnight or whatever it is, he'd be like, dude, I'm ready, I'm up, you know, how many hours I gotta knock this out.
Alarm.
Set his alarm to 2 a.m, whenever they permit it. But it was,
watched just the premiere?
Yeah.
Really?
You didn't know. Come on, look who we have here. I mean, you know.
I have to admit, I didn't watch it when it first aired to the exact minute, but I got one afternoon. I was like,
so good.
I broke it into a few afternoons just because of time constraints, things I had to do and everything like that. But yeah, I would watch like 3 or 4 episodes at a clip, man. It was addictive.
I want to say,
It is addictive.
You know, when I was a
Addictive
kid,
film.
I loved Daniel LaRusso. I thought he was like the best. He was almost like Luke Skywalker, you know, when you were a kid at that same time of year. Like 83 was like, wow, Luke Skywalker, Return of the Jedi. And then boom, 84, we have Daniel LaRusso, right? But like, after watching Cobra Kai, I became such a big fan of Johnny Lawrence.
Yeah.
And my last name is the same
I like when he
as
was out
his.
the period.
Is the same as his. And in high school, let me tell the story. In high school, when the movie came out, when I first went to high school, they were all going to me because they knew my last name. Oh, sweep the leg, sweep the leg. I couldn't escape it. In fact, I liked Johnny Lawrence so much after watching Cobra Kai, I actually dressed up as Johnny Lawrence for Halloween. I shaved off the goatee, I grew my hair out a little bit. I put on a headband.
You know we're going to insert that photo in post-editing.
So, you know, you'll see these pictures. You go like, okay.
What Halloween was this? The last Halloween?
Not long ago, about 2 years ago.
Two years ago?
And he even had the little Claus pub bottle.
That's right.
The nibs or whatever.
The banquet, the Coors banquet. Yeah, the Coors banquet.
Nibs? Where'd you get nibs from?
Nibs.
What's that?
Oh, those little bottles, whatever.
Yeah, banquet. Okay. The banquet beer. Hey, everybody. Thank you for watching episode 8, part 1. Remember to click the like button, subscribe, and the notification bell. Just remember to tune in for episode 8, part 2, coming soon.